guidelines this year due to the pandemic. So our group size is a maximum of 10 people, including guides. So we went ahead and we completely revamped this trip. And instead of staying at Old Faithful, we're now stay all 4 nights in the Mammoth area of the park. And it's just really a fun trip. And it is sold out right now, but we will have this in future years. And we will also have, we just added this today to our website, um, a snowshoe and wolf adventure. We have a good friend here in Red Lodge who is a wolf biologist. And so he is joining us for a couple of days. And he's also based in Red Lodge. I've been on search and rescue with him for about 15 years. He's a great guy and a wonderful educator. And so we're going to spend the last week of March in the park snowshoeing and doing things like tracking wolves, learning about den site selection and how the wolves were reintroduced in 1995 back into Yellowstone. So this is going to be a great trip for people who want to be outside and enjoy learning about animals. We also have a webinar next Monday night if you are interested in learning more about that trip with John and Alan and myself. So you've probably gotten the email about that, but if you didn't get it or need the link, let us know and we'll be happy to resend it to you. The next trip is in May. We actually have 2 of these. We had scheduled a Rogue River trip last May, but we weren't able to run it because of the pandemic. So we rolled everybody over to 2021 and it sold out right away. So we added a second trip, which also sold out. So we really love this trip for so many reasons. We hike from lodge to lodge along a 40-mile hiking trail along the wild and scenic Rogue River, which was the first river in the country to get that designation of wild and scenic. And it is really remote. We can't take a vacation these days and be out of cell range or Wi-Fi range, but on this trip we stay at these backcountry lodges that we hike to, and it's a really nice change of pace. If you haven't unplugged lately, I suggest trying it. It's very cathartic. So it's just us and nature. So we average about 10 miles a day hiking on this trip, but it's raft supported. So you, if you don't want to hike that day, you can just hop in the boat and go down to the next lodge. So we're going to add this trip again, or possibly 2 trips again in 2022. Very fun trip. Our next trip is we call the 5 Rivers biking trip. This is in Minnesota and Wisconsin, mainly in the Mississippi River Valley. And we call this the perfect COVID biking trip because if you do the medium routes, you'll never have to get into the support van. So we bike every day from hotel. The medium route goes from hotel to hotel. And we're near the Mississippi River, which is our old stomping grounds. That's actually where Zephyr started, was in Minneapolis, and I lived in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is very close to this location. So I know how lovely that scenery is. It's just lush, green, rolling hills and bluffs. So we spend our time along 5 rivers, which is why this is called the 5 Rivers Tour. And we use 6 different bike trails, and we go through over 20 small towns. And we're on roads occasionally, but most of the trip, up to 120 miles worth, is on paved, car-free bike paths. So right now we have 6 people booked on this trip. So we haven't yet met our minimum, but I suspect we will reach that sometime this month before our alumni discount ends. And then the next trip we have in late June is the Montana family trip. And this is the one that Alan was talking about. He's going to be on this trip with his daughter as a customer. It's perfect for multi-generational families or for solo parents bringing their kids. or, grandparents bringing their kids. Alan loves this trip. We spend the first night in a wilderness camp in the Pryor Mountains. And the last 3 nights we spend in Red Lodge, which is, of course, our hometown. And we feature horseback riding, hiking, archaeology, campfires, stargazing, caving, ice cream, pig races, river rafting, pool parties, candy shopping, driving over the Beartooth Pass, and a rodeo. So it's a lot to keep the kids and parents both occupied. Super fun trip. So right now we have 4 family units on this trip, and it's confirmed to run. The kids range from 7 to 16 this year. Then we have our Switzerland skating and biking trip in July. This is our only skating trip this year. We started out as solely a skating tour company, and so it's a little bit strange, isn't it, that we have only one skating trip this year. This was supposed to run last year, but we had to postpone it to 2021. We had a previous Switzerland skating tour, but this is a brand new itinerary. Alan scouted this out last year. It follows the Rhine Valley instead of the Rhone, and around Lake Constance. Most of the routes are flat or slightly downhill as it follows the river. And the really nice thing is that we don't need a map or directions, because the Swiss have really invested in their trail system, and they have national skating and biking routes that are very well signed. And so we just go from town to town every day on this. Honestly, this trip is a little bit risky for us, occurring in July, and we don't know what Switzerland is going to require for U.S. citizens to enter it right now. We're not allowed to enter it, but by July, we're hoping that there's more a clear picture on what we need to do to get there. Fortunately, this trip is also met its minimum, so it's a go if we're able to go. Then we have the Beartooth hiking trip. This is based in Red Lodge, so right in my backyard, and these are all the favorite hikes that I love to do, packaged into 1 week. And we think this is one of the best mountain ranges in the country, and probably one of the most unoccupied. Although we did see quite a few more people this summer hiking on our trails because they couldn't go anywhere else. And so we were a little inundated, but hopefully that's going to ease off in future years. But we stay in the same cozy historic hotel every night and go on my favorite hikes during the day. We have one super fun day of rafting or kayaking, or both. You can switch it up in the middle on the Yellowstone River. And it's a really relaxing trip in a lot of respects, even though we're hiking quite a bit, because we don't switch hotels and we don't spend a lot of time driving because all the trails are right there. And the hikes themselves, we don't do a ton of mileage, but so in that respect, it's easy, but the hiking's not super easy because there's altitude to deal with. And almost every hike around here goes up to start with and it comes back down to end. So anyway, the scenery is astounding, so it's well worth any effort you have to make to go on that. That one has 3 people on it right now. We have a minimum of 4, so I'm pretty certain that one is going to run. So if you like hiking, that's a one to look at. Then we have our Multisport trip in Banff, Canada. And this was also one that we had planned last year, had sold out, and then we pretty much rolled everybody over this year. So we have a few spots left on this one still, but this is a stunning area of the Canadian Rockies. You've probably seen photos of Lake Louise with that just wild looking fake aqua color, but that's really what it looks like. So really beautiful scenery. We hike, we bike, we canoe, and we raft on this trip. So like I said, we have only a handful of spots left on this one. And then we have the Bavaria hiking and beer. This is a brand new trip that we just added in the last few weeks, actually. And funny fact, my sister just did that 23andMe DNA analysis, and we had always thought we were a little bit of German and Danish and English. Well, turns out that I am like 60% German, and not only that, I'm Bavarian. So that is when I scouted that part of Germany a couple years ago, I I loved it so much, and now I know why, because that's kind of my homeland. So I can't wait to go back. The hiking here is great. It's not mountainous, but it's hilly with a lot of beautiful trees and river valleys. Yeah, Emily, going home for me. Um, Beautiful river valleys, um, and really cute towns. And of course, lots of breweries. Bavaria is known for beer, and the beer is really tied to the culture here. And it's hard to avoid that. I have to say, even for an almost non-beer drinker like myself, I loved trying all of the beers. And it was a really like a highlight of the day to reach the end of the trail and knowing that there was a brewery there and people were having fun. And it's a really neat place in that respect. So we stay in 3 different towns. We stay in the big city of Munich, which is an awesome city, home of the Oktoberfest. We stay in this tiny little town of Essing, which you've never heard of, but it's in that picture right there where those people are walking across the bridge. It's, just a pin drop of a town, and we stay at a really cute brewery and inn. And we have run this trip for privately before, and we used to stay one night there, but both Beth and I love this town so much we added another night here, and the hiking's also really gorgeous. And then the last 2 nights we spend in the really beautiful historic city of Bamberg, which is in northern Bavaria. And then we set this tour up, the dates, so you could extend your stay. Oktoberfest starts on September 18th. So if you want to stay and partake in the Oktoberfest, you can just pop back down to Munich and drink some more beer. Our next trip, I'm going to have Alan tell you about this one because he set these trips up. We have a Vermont biking adventure and a Vermont hiking adventure. So Alan, if you would be so kind to jump back on and talk about why they're so great.
Yeah, so we set up these Vermont trips in part because of the pandemic, and with the goal of giving people trips they could drive to. And we had nothing in the Northeast really. And in the Northeast, Vermont is definitely the outdoor state. And really, it's one of the top outdoor activity states in the country. And once I set these up, I was shocked at myself for never having created a tour in Vermont before now, to be honest. And I went back and forth. I was oscillating between biking and hiking because we really were just planning on creating one Vermont tour. We really didn't expect to need 2, but I thought I could not decide. The biking takes place in the Champlain Valley, which is flat with mountains on the sides and beautiful greenery and cute small towns. And Vermont is known for its culinary production, cheeses and honeys and ice cream, obviously. So it really is considered the #1 bike touring area in the United States. And we'd always avoided it because it was the #1 area and everybody else sort of knew about it. But when I started looking into this, I thought, oh my gosh, we have to add this. And then Vermont is, of course, also called the Green Mountain State. So it's known for its mountains. And I spent a lot of time checking out different areas to do this because the entire Appalachian Trail runs through the state. There's a lot of hiking there. And we decided to center on 2 different areas that are close to each other to limit the driving. And it's excellent hiking. And it's during the fall foliage. So that's when everybody wants to go there. It bumps up the prices a little bit. But on the trails, we won't be seeing that many people, and we should get outstanding views of the fall foliage. So I'm really looking forward to those 2 trips and I'm expecting to be guiding them myself.
All right, carrying on. We realized we didn't have any international biking trips, and so this Puglia biking trip is not new, but we haven't run it for many years, and it's another trip we added since we realized we could probably travel again this fall. In October in Puglia is perfect weather. It's in southern Italy. Um, we love Puglia as a cycling destination for a couple of reasons. One is that it has a network of small roads that are just absolutely perfect for cycling. We have GPS units to help you do the route finding. But there's just really stunning topography that, we go past Roman ruins, fortresses, olive farms, whitewashed cities, lots of fields. It's a big agricultural area. And then we end up coming down from the plain onto the Adriatic coastline. So really beautiful scenery. Second, it has fantastic and abundant local food and wine. So it's a great place to work off all the food and wine that you partake in each night. So there's lots of mileage available on the trip. So if you are not a Lance Armstrong, or you want to make sure you can do every mile, you can opt to rent an e-bike. And if you haven't tried one of those, that is a game changer in the world of biking. Super fun. You can just, you're practically not tired at the end of the day after biking every mile. And then our next trip in October is Tuscany walking trip. This is a brand new one that we also had planned for this past October in 2020, but had to cancel. And so we moved everybody from last year to this year. And this trip is sold out, but we do plan to do this trip again in 2022. So we basically walk European style from village to village and inn to inn each day on the white roads of Tuscany, which themselves are the roads themselves are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So there's gorgeous scenery, lots of great food and wine. As you know, Tuscany is famous for that, historic towns. So watch for that one in 2022. And then another trip we just added. We felt like people may have had some pent up demand for doing bucket list. Oh, this is Chile and Argentina. Sorry. Chile and Argentina. Great trip that involves two countries. I think we travel through 7 different wine regions in the two countries. We do some biking, we do some hiking, and we do some formal wine tastings. And one day you can choose to horseback ride or hike, and another day we've have some activities near the Mendoza River where you can do zip lining or river rafting or kayaking. Very, very fun sport. It kind of has a little bit of everything, a really exotic destination and great wine and food and really good activities. And our next trip is Ecuador. This is the one I was saying it might be time for people to do a bucket list trip, and this is definitely it. For animal and nature lovers especially, we spend 3 days in the Amazon, which is just crawling with animals, you name it, insects, reptiles, monkeys, gators. There's just so much to see, and we're accompanied by naturalists in the Amazon. So we get to learn all about the species. We get to learn about the native local people there, and very cool experience. We go back to Quito after being in the Amazon, and then we move on to the Galapagos, which is a fairyland for animal lovers. So, marine iguanas, white-tipped reef sharks, blue-footed boobies, tortoises, finches, you name it. There are animals everywhere. And the thing that surprised me about the Galapagos is how wonderful the beaches were. So just a beautiful, wonderful location. And our last trip of the year, which we have now rescheduled 3 times, Emily, you're on this trip, right? The Baja Kayaking. This is hands down the best kayaking and camping I've ever done in my life. It is, stunning scenery, and we go to a place called Espiritu Santo Island, and we kayak from camp to camp. And it's, I don't know if you'd call it glamping, but if you have somebody cooking for you and making drinks for happy hour every day and setting up your tents, it's pretty easy camping. And compared to where I live, we don't have to worry about bears. We don't have to worry about insects or cold weather. It's just phenomenal camping. And then the very last day, you can see that picture on the slide where somebody has the baby sea lion. So you get to swim with the sea lions. And then the very last day, we actually get to swim with whale sharks, which are more whale than shark. So they are not carnivorous. They don't eat people. But that is just one of the highlights of my life having done that. So Alan is going to be guiding that one, I believe. And very fun trip. I could go back to the Baja in Mexico every year without a problem. Could return time and again. Let's see. We also, Alan, you talked about Travel Montana, I believe.
Yeah, and we, I think that for Travel Montana, all you really need to know right now is that we're going to talk about that next week. Same time next week when we do our Wolf webinar, we'll also start out by telling you a little bit about the Travel Montana brand that we created. But the key point in there is that it's mostly for private groups, and those group sizes are only starting at 4 people. So this is something we've created to be pandemic friendly, but also we think there's going to be a demand for people that want to do their own trips, and we can do it there because we're based in Montana and we know guides who are excellent and can run those trips. So that's something to consider, and we'll tell you a little bit more about it 1 week from tonight.
Thanks. And then just wanted to mention, we also have we have 3 brands now: Zephyr, Travel Montana, and Taste Vacations, which are essentially non-active vacations that focus on food and culinary wine and beer experiences. So we have mostly private trips, but we have a few public tours that we plan to run in 2021: Belgium beer, South Africa, and Tuscany. We're also super excited for this new partnership that we've created with Mindy Bear. Yeah, she's a Grammy nominated singer saxophonist who I had never heard of, but once I checked her out, I was blown away by how good she is. But so we're partnering with her and her fans basically to do a wine. Her husband is into wine, and so we're doing a wine and music trip in Sonoma in June, and then one in Tuscany in November. So that's kind of a unique private trip that we're putting together with them. And I think that's it. So we have time for questions. If you have any questions, all you have to do is unmute yourself and ask it. Or Beth, did you have a different way or raising hands? Feel free to chime in. No? Okay. So
or you can put it in the chat and we can read it out loud. So however you guys want to do it.
Anybody have a question?
May I?
Yes.
Go ahead, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
First of all, this is a pandemic highlight being with all of you here. So thank you for putting this on, and the trips sound just wonderful. I'm signing up for all of them, even the ones that are sold out. But so when you talk about rollover, if we haven't told you otherwise, if we had signed up for something last year, our place is there? Okay,
Correct.
just a clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if anybody doesn't have questions. We're not exactly expecting that, but if anybody does or wants to make a comment, Cindy wrote, hoping you'll be doing more skating trips in the future. That depends on all of you. I am teaching my 7-year-old to skate. We go out and play roller hockey every Friday afternoon. There aren't a lot of skaters learning at the moment. So it's just a function of, in fact, we have said for years that really we're not running our company. All of you are running our company, because we can create any kind of trip we want, but if it doesn't appeal to all of you, it's not going to run. So we sort of feel like it's you all who are in charge of our trips. Travel restrictions to Canada. Yeah, there are travel restrictions not only to Canada, but to everywhere, right? Including Vermont, including New York, Roberta, where, as you know. It is unclear. What's going to happen is unclear. If we have to roll trips again, we'll do it. If we have to move them a little bit later in the year, we'll do that. We will do the same process for every trip. We'll talk to all of the people on that trip and see what you want to do. Do you want to wait until we know for sure? Do you want to move it? It's a group collective decision a lot of times. And for Canada specifically, I know they are being very conservative and not opening up much. So we don't know. What do you think a COVID vaccinated passport will look like? My travel well with update with Alan last week was about COVID passports. So you can go look at that if you go onto the Zephyr website and go down and click on the most recent blog post. It won't look like my little yellow booklet that I have from 1991, which still has a bunch of vaccinations listed in it. It will probably look like your phone. And what it means is when you go into an airport and try and check in, you will have to show them an app, and that app will confirm that you got vaccinated. So from my point of view, it's a no-brainer. That's exactly what should be happening. And people might have data concerns, but I don't think those data concerns are anything more than you signing up for Facebook or getting a passport or signing up for a visa. So it will be relatively easy once they get the standardization down. The problem is that multiple groups are creating those. The one that's likely to win out is the Air Transport Association, because they essentially control the vote of all the airlines who are critical in that. Francisco asked, no cross-country skiing. As Kris mentioned there, we used to do the skiing and the snowshoeing together, and people seem to enjoy the snowshoeing more. The snowshoeing's simple. Everybody can snowshoe. Cross-country skiing is relatively simple too, but it's not as easy to get good at it. Everybody can cross-country ski, but to be good at cross-country skiing is a little bit more difficult. And so the snowshoeing was easier for everybody. The snowshoeing actually has some advantages too. You can go anywhere you want. You can easily go up and down hills, whereas on cross-country skis, you can't unless you know what you're doing. So it's more versatile to be doing that as well. Yeah, anybody else have questions?
Either Kris or Alan, I'm not sure who this is for, but when you added the beer tour, that made the Tuscany walking tour a difficult choice. So if you'll keep us apprised of whether you're selling out the German beer tour, and let me know. I don't want to end up finding out that we all of a sudden decide to switch and then you've sold it out. So just keep us apprised of A, when you need to know the final decision whether we want to change it, and B, if you're selling it out, let me know quickly.
I will. I have a note already on the file, so I will keep you informed.
Okay, thank you.
It's rough to be retired, Rick.
Well, yeah, I'd like to be somewhere else other than the city, but that's not my choice.
Yes, I'm sure. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us on a Monday night. And hopefully we'll see you next week if you want to learn a little bit about wolves in Montana.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Great
Good
to
night, everyone.
Read
Thank
this.
you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Great seeing you
Bye.
all.
Great seeing you.
Oh,
guys.
Thanks for coming.
Susan, I'll have to see you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
I'll see you in like half an hour or something. Gloria.
Yes.
So nice.
Bye.
Gloria, doing story time at 10 o'clock if anybody's interested.
Right,
Excellent.
so Chris and Alan and Beth, I owe you an email. It's coming. So thank you for this.
We're going to look forward to that. Yours are excellent.
Well,
Yes.
Roberta, it's great to see you.
bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Chris,
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.